The quiet of the library was a comfort to Mark, a place where whispers of the past and present mingled seamlessly. The chime of his communication device felt out of place amidst the rustle of pages and hushed tones. Frowning, he glanced at the screen. An unknown interstellar number. Curiosity piqued, he answered. Mark Sullivan? A formal voice inquired. Yes, speaking, Mark replied, his voice low. This is Jara Fay, Certified Intergalactic Executor. I am calling regarding the estate of Zorith Reltune of Cygnus. Mark's heart skipped. Zorith, his college roommate and a friend closer than any other, hadn't been in touch recently. Is everything okay with him? I regret to inform you that Zorith has passed away, Jara said solemnly. He designated you as the sole inheritor of his possessions. We need to discuss the transfer of his assets. Shock rendered Mark speechless momentarily. I didn't even know he was ill. Zorith kept his illness private. He wished to burden no one. Your friendship meant a great deal to him, as will become clear when you review the documents he left. When can we meet to discuss this? Mark managed, his mind reeling. At your earliest convenience. I will arrange to meet you on Earth, at your residence, if that suits. Please do. Thank you, Jara. The line went silent. The news hung heavy on Mark's shoulders as he turned back to his desk. The shadow of loss was suddenly a tangible presence in his life. The next days were a blur of arrangements. Jara Fay arrived on Earth, a sharp-dressed figure with the aura of someone who navigated galaxies as easily as city traffic. She brought documents, holograms of properties across the cosmos, and, most surprisingly, a new face into Mark's life. This is Lyrina, Zoritha's widow, Jara introduced. Lyrina's appearance was startling, tall and graceful, with skin that shimmered subtly under the Earth's sun, and eyes reflecting a starry sky. Mark, remembering his manners, extended his hand. Lyrina, I'm so sorry for your loss. Zorith was a good friend. She took his hand, her grip firm yet gentle. Thank you, Mark. I know he cherished your friendship. He spoke of you often. Jara cleared her throat, drawing their attention. As per Cygnian tradition and Zoritha's wishes, the inheritance includes his familial obligations. Lyrina is now your responsibility, Mark. This is a great honor. Mark looked between Jara and Lyrina, a mix of confusion and concern knitting his brows. I'm honored, but I want to be sure I respect Lyrina's wishes too. This is her life, and it's a lot to process. Lyrina smiled softly. I appreciate that, Mark. Zorith trusted you, and I trust his judgment. But I am not without means or desires of my own. Perhaps, together, we can find a path forward. That sounds like a good plan, Mark agreed, feeling the weight of his new responsibilities melding with the potential of new beginnings. As Jara detailed the assets and legalities, Mark and Lyrina began to sketch out their shared future, tentative but with a foundation of mutual respect. Zorith had left them both a legacy, and now it was theirs to build upon. The road ahead was unclear, but Mark felt a renewed sense of purpose as he looked at Lyrina, her presence a gentle echo of his old friend's life and now a part of his own. Mark stood at the spaceport, anxiously awaiting Lyrina's arrival. His thoughts were a tangle of memories of Zorith and concerns about the future. The buzzing of the crowd brought him back to the present as the arrival gate opened and a stream of interstellar travelers flowed through. Lyrina appeared, her stride confident yet searching. Her gaze locked onto Mark, and a small, relieved smile broke across her face. Mark approached, his nervousness giving way to a tentative warmth. Welcome to Earth, Lyrina, Mark greeted, extending his hand once again. Thank you, Mark, Lyrina replied, accepting his handshake with a graceful nod. It's quite different from what I imagined. I hope different in a good way, Mark chuckled. Let's get your bags. I imagine you'll want to settle in after your journey. They walked side by side, an awkward silence falling between them. Mark broke it as they reached the baggage claim. I've prepared the guest room for you. I hope it'll be comfortable. Your kindness is appreciated, she said, her voice soft yet carrying an undercurrent of steel. I'm ready to start anew here, thanks to Zoritha's and your trust. As they collected her belongings, a modest collection of suitcases, another figure approached them. A tall man, broad-shouldered with a friendly face, waved at Mark. "Hey, Mark. Need a hand?" "Tom, perfect timing." Mark smiled, introducing him to Lirina. "This is my friend Tom, one of the best engineers around." "Tom, this is Lirina. Pleased to meet you," Tom said, shaking Lirina's hand. "Welcome to Earth. If you need anything tech-wise, I'm your guy." "Thank you, Tom," Lirina replied, a hint of amusement in her tone. "I may take you up on that. Signian technology can be intricate." With a laugh, they loaded her luggage into Mark's vehicle, Tom's easy demeanor helping to ease the tension. On the drive home, Tom chatted about the local area, pointing out landmarks and suggesting places Lirina might like to visit. "There's a great multicultural center nearby. It could be a good start to meet folks from all sorts of backgrounds." Lirina listened intently, nodding. "I appreciate your efforts to make me feel welcome. It's more than I expected. We look out for each other here," Tom said. Plus, Mark's spoken so highly of all his interstellar friends. "You're practically family already." Arriving at Mark's home, they unloaded the car and showed Lirina to her room. Mark hesitated at the door. "I hope you'll find everything to your liking. We can change anything that doesn't suit you." Lirina surveyed the room, noting the earthy tones and soft fabrics. "It's perfect, Mark. Thank you for being so considerate." As Tom excused himself to leave, Mark lingered. "There's a welcome dinner tonight. Just a few close friends who want to meet you. Nothing big or formal." "I would like that," she said. "It seems I am in good hands here." That evening, as guests arrived, Lirina mingled with a surprising ease, her earlier reservation giving way to a poised charm. The room filled with laughter and the clinking of glasses, Earth and Signian cultures blending seamlessly for a night. Mark watched her, a sense of pride mixed with a strange, vicarious excitement. As their eyes met across the room, Lirina's smile told him that perhaps, in this new chapter, they could indeed find a path forward together. The morning after the welcome dinner, Mark found Lirina in the kitchen, an array of Earth ingredients laid out before her. "Good morning," Mark greeted, his eyes scanning the spread. "Planning to cook?" Lirina turned with a smile. "Good morning, Mark. Yes, I thought I'd attempt to prepare breakfast. It's a good way to learn, isn't it? But I must confess, I'm not yet familiar with all these ingredients." Mark chuckled, joining her at the counter. "Let me help. How about we make pancakes? They're simple enough." "Pancakes," Lirina repeated, rolling the unfamiliar word around. "I'd like that." As they mixed the batter, Lirina's curiosity about Earth's cooking methods grew. "On Cygnus, we use heat fields for cooking. Direct flame or these pans. It's new to me." "Well, the pan's ready," Mark said, heating it up. "Let's see how you do with Earth tech." Lirina poured the batter, fascinated by the sizzle and bubbles that formed. Mark guided her on when to flip the pancake, and she executed it perfectly. "Excellent," Mark applauded. "You're a natural." The success of their cooking venture filled the room with warmth and laughter. They sat to eat, and Mark asked about Signian dishes. "I could show you some recipes," Lirina suggested. "Maybe we could replicate them here?" "That'd be an adventure," Mark agreed enthusiastically. "We should do a cultural exchange dinner sometime." As they cleared up, a neighbor, Mr. Harris, stopped by. An elderly man with a keen interest in gardening, he often shared tips and plants with Mark. "Morning, Mark. And who do we have here?" Mr. Harris asked, noticing Lirina. "This is Lirina. She's staying with me," Mark introduced. "Lirina, this is Mr. Harris, the best gardener in the neighborhood." "Pleased to meet you," Lirina said, extending a hand. Mr. Harris shook her hand warmly. "Welcome, Lirina. If you're interested in gardening, you must come see my backyard sometime. I've got some earth plants that are quite resilient." "I'd love that," Lirina responded. "I'm eager to learn about earth flora." "Well, it's settled then," Mr. Harris declared. "Why don't you both come over this afternoon? I'll give you a little tour." The afternoon found them in Mr. Harris's lush garden, surrounded by an array of colorful flowers and robust vegetables. "These are tomatoes," Mr. Harris explained, handing one to Lirina. "Go ahead, give it a smell." Lirina inhaled the rich, earthy scent. It's very different from anything on Cygnus. As they walked, Mark and Lorena listened intently to Mr. Harris's explanations, the older man enjoying the chance to impart his gardening wisdom. Lorena's questions were thoughtful, showing her deepening interest in her new environment. Later, as they walked back home, Mark noticed Lorena looking more relaxed. "Today was good," he commented. "You seem to be settling in well." "Yes, thanks to you and your friends," Lorena replied. "Your world is becoming less foreign to me by the day." Back at home, they decided to plan the cultural exchange dinner. "Let's invite Tom and Mr. Harris and anyone else you'd like," Mark suggested. "That sounds wonderful," Lorena agreed. "It will be a fine way to share a piece of Cygnus with everyone." As they discussed menus and preparations, the foundation of their cohabitation grew stronger. Not just housemates, but friends, learning and growing together, bridging worlds one meal, one laugh at a time. The day of the multicultural gala had arrived. Mark and Lorena had decided to attend together, showcasing their newfound friendship and cultural exchange. As Mark adjusted his tie in the mirror, Lorena entered the room, dressed in a traditional Cygnian gown that shimmered under the light. "Wow, you look amazing," Mark complimented, genuinely awed. "Thank you, Mark. You look quite dapper yourself," Lorena smiled, her nerves hidden behind a calm exterior. "Ready to face the crowd?" Mark asked as they prepared to leave. "As ready as I'll ever be," Lorena replied, taking a deep breath. The gala was buzzing with activity when they arrived, filled with representatives from various Earth nations and several interstellar communities. They were greeted by Jonathan, the organizer, who was an old college friend of Mark's. "Mark, Lorena, glad you could make it," Jonathan said, shaking Mark's hand before turning to Lorena. "And you must be the lady of the hour. Welcome." "Thank you, Jonathan. It's a pleasure to be here," Lorena responded graciously. Jonathan led them into the main hall, where the atmosphere was a blend of curiosity and excitement. Mark noticed several eyes on them, the whispers barely concealed. "Let's mingle. It'll be good for the attendees to meet you up close," Jonathan suggested, guiding them through the crowd. As they moved through the groups of people, Mark introduced Lorena to various guests, explaining her background and the nature of their association. The reception was mixed, but mostly positive. A journalist from a local news agency approached them for a comment. "Mr. Sullivan, could you share how it feels to step into such a unique role, integrating an interstellar tradition into your life?" Mark smiled, placing a friendly hand on Lorena's shoulder. "It's been an enriching experience. Lorena has brought a new perspective to my life, and I believe we have much to learn from each other." Lorena added, "We are here to honor a beloved mutual friend, and through that, we've discovered a friendship based on mutual respect and cultural exchange. It's a new beginning." The journalist nodded, jotting down notes. "Thank you both for sharing your story." As the evening progressed, they met with scholars, politicians, and other dignitaries. The conversation often turned to topics of cultural integration and interstellar relations. During a quieter moment, a senior diplomat from the Earth Interstellar Relations Bureau approached them. "Mr. Sullivan, Ms. Lorena, I've been following your story. It's quite fascinating." "Thank you," Mark replied. "We're just taking things one step at a time." The diplomat nodded. "Integration is key, and it's encouraging to see it handled with such care. Keep up the good work." As the night drew to a close, Jonathan called for attention and gave a speech highlighting the importance of unity and understanding across cultures. "Tonight, we've seen a wonderful example of that unity," he said, nodding towards Mark and Lorena. "Let's continue to build bridges, not walls." The crowd applauded, and Mark felt a surge of pride. He looked at Lorena, who was smiling warmly back at him. On their way home, Lorena sighed contentedly. "That went better than I expected." "Me too," Mark agreed. "It seems like we're on the right path after all." As they drove back under the starlit sky, the evening's successes and the warmth of new friendships made the future seem a little brighter, a little more promising. They were not just bearing a legacy, but actively shaping it into something meaningful. The morning after the gala, Mark found Lorena in the garden, her hands gently examining the leaves of a tomato plant Mr. Harris had given her. The quiet focus on her face spoke of deep thoughts. "Good morning, Lorena," Mark called out as he approached. How are the plants doing? Lorena looked up, a smile breaking her contemplation. Good morning, Mark. The plants are thriving. It seems they enjoy the Earth's soil as much as I enjoy its air. That's great to hear, Mark replied, joining her by the plant bed. You seem to have a real touch with them. It's peaceful here, she said, her voice soft. Helps me think and remember. Her voice trailed off, and Mark sensed a shift in her mood. You miss Cygnus, don't you? He asked gently. Lorena nodded. Yes, sometimes fiercely. But I am also learning to appreciate here, with you, the new experiences. Mark smiled, touched by her honesty. I'm glad. And whenever you want to share more about Cygnus or anything else, I'm here. Lorena returned the smile, and they spent a few moments in companionable silence before she spoke again. Mark, I've been thinking about last night, about how everyone was interested in our story. Maybe we should do something with that. Something that helps others understand interstellar cultures better. That's a fantastic idea, Mark enthused. Maybe a series of talks or workshops. We could start small, here in the community. Yes, exactly. Lorena agreed, her eyes lighting up. We could use Zoratha's estate to fund it. It would be a fitting use of his legacy. Let's plan it out, Mark said. We could draft some ideas this afternoon. The planning session later that day was brimming with energy. Mark and Lorena sat at the dining table, papers and digital devices spread out before them, brainstorming and outlining potential topics and formats for their cultural exchange initiative. We should definitely have a session on Cygnian technology, Mark suggested, jotting down notes. And one on Earth's environmental adaptation technologies, Lorena added. I think people would find the contrasts enlightening. As they worked, the doorbell rang. Mark stood to answer it, finding Tom on the doorstep with a cheerful grin. Hey, Mark. I heard about your project from Jonathan. Sounds like something I'd love to help with. Come in, Tom. Mark welcomed him. Your timing's perfect. We're just mapping out the project. Tom joined them at the table, his engineering background providing a new perspective. Have you thought about using virtual reality for the workshops? It could be a great way to immerse attendees in different cultural settings. That's an excellent idea, Lorena said. It could simulate being on Cygnus or experiencing Earth from a non-human perspective. The afternoon flew by as they structured the project, excitement growing with each new idea. They decided to pilot the program at a local community center, inviting people from various backgrounds to participate. As the sun began to set, Tom headed home, and Lorena turned to Mark with a grateful look. Thank you, Mark, for everything today. It feels like we're building something special. Mark nodded in agreement. We're not just living together. We're making a difference. It feels good, right? It does, Lorena confirmed, her voice warm. More than good. It feels right. Their project was not just a tribute to Zoratha's memory, but a bridge between worlds, crafted by two people who were learning to navigate their new realities together. The bond between them, initially formed by circumstance, was now being fortified by shared purpose and genuine affection. The morning was crisp, and the sun cast a warm glow over the garden where Mark and Lorena were reviewing their plans for the upcoming cultural exchange workshop. Their discussions were occasionally punctuated by laughter, a sign of their growing ease with each other. However, the peaceful morning was soon interrupted by the arrival of an unexpected visitor. Mark noticed a well-dressed man approaching their front gate, an official-looking badge clipped to his coat. Mark Sullivan? The man asked as he reached the doorway, where Mark had gone to greet him. Yes, I'm Mark. Can I help you? Mark responded, noting the serious expression on the visitor's face. My name is Agent Collins, from the Earth Interstellar Relations Authority. The man introduced himself. We've received some concerns regarding the public activities and status of one Cygnian national, Lorena, residing here. Mark's brow furrowed in concern, and he glanced back at Lorena, who had followed him to the door, sensing the tension. Concerns? What kind of concerns? Lorena inquired, her voice steady, but Mark could see the worry in her eyes. Some members of the Cygnian community here on Earth have expressed reservations about your integration initiatives, Collins explained, his tone formal. They fear it might dilute Cygnian cultural purity. Lorena took a deep breath before replying. I understand their concerns, but our project aims to foster understanding and respect among cultures, not dilute them. Mark supported her. We've planned it carefully, ensuring it's about sharing knowledge and building bridges. Agent Collins nodded, jotting down notes. I'm here to gather information firsthand. Would you mind if I attend one of your sessions? Not at all, Mark replied. We'd appreciate your input. Satisfied, Collins promised to return for the next session before leaving. With Collins gone, Mark turned to Lyrina. How are you holding up? Lyrina sighed. It's disheartening, but I'm not surprised. Change can be frightening. Determined to keep their spirits up, Mark suggested, let's keep focusing on the positive impact we can make. We're in this together, right? Right. Lyrina affirmed, her resolve firming. Later that week, during their first workshop, the room was filled with curious locals and some interstellar visitors, including Agent Collins. Mark and Lyrina, along with Tom, who had volunteered to handle the technical aspects of the virtual reality experience, were busy ensuring that everything went smoothly. As the attendees experienced the virtual realities of Earth and Cygnus, the room buzzed with awe and appreciation. Conversations sparked among groups, discussing the vivid contrasts and surprising similarities between the cultures. Agent Collins observed quietly from the back, his expression thoughtful as he watched the interactions. Post-session, he approached Mark and Lyrina. I must admit, the experience is quite enlightening, Collins remarked. Seeing your commitment and the genuine interest from the community, it's hard not to see the value in what you're doing. We're glad to hear that, Mark said, relief evident in his voice. We hope this can be a step toward greater unity. Keep me informed of your progress, Collins requested, his previous skepticism softened. I'll share my positive observations with my superiors. With the successful launch of their initiative and Collins' support, Mark and Lyrina felt a renewed sense of purpose. They knew challenges lay ahead, but the support and interest from the community bolstered their determination. As the attendees left, many thanked them, promising to return and bring others. Watching the guests depart, Lyrina leaned over to Mark. Today was a good day. It was, Mark agreed, smiling. And there'll be more to come. Their shared vision, strengthened by each small success and learning experience, was slowly but surely helping to weave a tapestry of understanding across worlds. The Cultural Exchange Initiative was flourishing, and Mark and Lyrina decided to celebrate its success by hosting a commitment ceremony that would blend both Earth and Cygnian traditions. The event was planned not only to solidify their partnership, but also to serve as a demonstration of the unity they preached. In the days leading up to the ceremony, Mark was busy coordinating with caterers and decorators to ensure that the event would reflect both cultures harmoniously. Are you sure about the menu? Tom asked, looking over the list Mark had compiled. You've got an equal mix of Cygnian and Earth dishes. Yes, it's perfect, Mark assured him. Lyrina and I thought it would be the best way to let everyone experience a bit of both worlds. Tom nodded, impressed. I can't wait to try some of those Cygnian delicacies. What's this one? Glarthnak stew. It's much tastier than it sounds, Mark chuckled. Lyrina taught me how to make it. You'll love it. As they finalized the preparations, Lyrina was making arrangements of her own, including a traditional Cygnian musical performance. She had invited a local Cygnian music group that resonated with the traditional sounds of her home planet. Mark, do you think people will enjoy the music? Lyrina asked during one of their planning sessions, a hint of nervousness in her voice. I'm sure they will. It's about sharing our cultures, remember? Everyone's coming with an open mind, Mark reassured her, squeezing her hand gently. The day of the ceremony arrived, and the venue was a vibrant mix of earth greens and Cygnian light sculptures. Guests arrived, dressed in a variety of traditional attires from across the galaxy. As the ceremony began, Mark and Lyrina stood together, hand in hand, in front of their friends and family. A respected elder from the Cygnian community, who had come to appreciate their efforts, led the ceremony. Today, we witness a union that is not just a bond between two individuals but a symbol of what we can achieve when we embrace each other's differences and strengths, the elder proclaimed in a solemn yet warm tone. Mark then spoke, his voice clear and sincere. Lyrina and I started as friends, united by a mutual loss. but we grew to understand and appreciate each other beyond anything we had imagined. Today, we commit to not just each other, but to a shared future that respects both of our worlds. Lorena, moved by his words, responded, Mark has shown me a kindness that transcends cultural boundaries. In him, I've found not only a partner but a new home. Together, we hope to be a living example of harmony and cooperation. The exchange of vows was followed by the blending of soils from earth and Cygnian ground, a tradition in Cygnian culture symbolizing the coming together of different lives to form a new, enriched entity. After the ceremony, the celebration began in earnest. Guests mingled, tasted the diverse offerings, and many even took turns trying out the Cygnian musical instruments brought by the band. As the evening drew to a close, Tom approached Mark and Lorena with a smile. You two really pulled it off. This was something special. It felt right, Mark replied, glancing at Lorena with a smile. And it's just the beginning, Lorena added, her eyes alight with hope and excitement. Their commitment ceremony not only marked the union of two individuals from different worlds, but also celebrated the potential of cultural integration. It was a testament to their love and respect for each other's heritage, a foundation upon which they would continue to build a future filled with understanding and cooperation. The commitment ceremony had been a resounding success, and the echoes of its celebration lingered in the community. The following weeks saw Mark and Lorena's cultural initiative grow even further, attracting interest from other communities and even media attention. One crisp morning, as they walked through the park discussing plans for an upcoming interstellar cultural festival, Mark's phone buzzed with an incoming call from Jonathan, who had been instrumental in helping them publicize their efforts. Mark, Lorena, I've got some exciting news, Jonathan said once they were on the call together. A major cultural organization wants to sponsor your festival. They're really impressed with what you've accomplished. That's fantastic, Mark exclaimed, sharing a triumphant look with Lorena. We hoped it would get some attention, but this is beyond what we expected. Lorena's voice was full of gratitude. Thank you, Jonathan, for all your support. We couldn't have reached so many people without your help. It's all you're doing, Jonathan replied warmly. I'll send over the details so we can start planning. This is going to be big. After the call, Mark and Lorena continued their walk, their conversation now filled with hopeful plans for the future. It seems we're really making an impact, Lorena, Mark said thoughtfully. Yes, she agreed. It feels like we're creating something lasting, something that truly honors Zoratha's memory. Their path took them past a local school, where a group of children was playing. Watching them, Lorena remarked, it's the young ones who will benefit most from our work. Maybe we should think about programs specifically for schools. That's a great idea, Mark responded. Education is the key to understanding. After all, they decided to spend the rest of the day drafting a proposal for a school program that would include interactive workshops and virtual reality experiences focusing on Earth and Cygnian cultures. Later that evening, they met with Tom and Mr. Harris to discuss their ideas. The gathering had become a regular part of their routine, a chance to brainstorm and review the progress of their various projects. Tom was enthusiastic about the educational angle. I can tweak the VR programs to make them more kid-friendly. Maybe include some games and quizzes to make the learning part fun. Mr. Harris, always supportive, offered his thoughts as well. Kids need to get their hands dirty too. How about a small garden project? They could learn about Earth and Cygnian plant species side by side. I love that, Lorena said, clearly inspired. It ties in with everything we've been working on. Education, cooperation, and understanding, all in one. As the meeting drew to a close, Mark felt a sense of accomplishment and purpose. We're really doing this, aren't we? He said to the group. We're making a difference. Yes, we are. Lorena smiled, reaching for his hand. Together. The next day, as they prepared for a presentation to potential funders, Lorena paused, looking at Mark with a sincere expression. Mark, I never imagined when I arrived on Earth that I would find such a fulfilling path. You've helped me find a new home here. Mark squeezed her hand, his heart full. And you've helped me see the world in new ways, Lorena. It's been an incredible journey. Their project continued to develop, laying down roots in the community and branching out to touch more lives. Mark and Lorena stood side by side, their shared vision for a united and understanding future stronger than ever. As they looked out over the crowd at the presentation, Mark whispered, echoing the sentiment that had started it all, man inherits his alien friend's fortune, including his beautiful alien wife. And together, they smiled at their new beginning.